Hi, this is Dr. Geneva, and welcome to Ignite to Impact. On this episode, meet Velton Showell, a business transformation expert who speaks, trains, and teaches clients all over the United States about how to go from good to great. He believes that if you transform your thinking, you can transform your world. Listen as he gives us tips and techniques, 52 principles, one a week, that every successful leader must embrace.
Welcome to Ignite to Impact, a weekly podcast about next generation leadership and what it takes to make a difference at work, with family, and in your community. Get ready to be inspired as we pull back the curtain and dive into intimate and energetic conversations with achievers and doers who are in the trenches navigating workplace politics and influencing change. Get ready to hear how leaders fail and get back up, learning how to keep it together while traveling in their leadership journey. Our mission: to help you with leadership tips and strategies that you can use to get fast results and help make your business, community, and world a better place. Now, here's your host, Master Leadership Strategist, Dr. Geneva Williams. So, let's ignite to impact.
Hi, this is Dr. Geneva, and welcome once again to insightful conversations about subjects that you want to hear about. So, stay with me for a moment and think about this. Transform your thinking, transform your world. Wouldn't you like to hear more about what that means? And in fact, wouldn't you like to know how to do just that? Well, Velton Showell is with me today to explain it all because, first of all, that's his motto. And secondly, he has the experience to make it happen. Velton is a business transformation and organizational leadership expert, speaker, author, trainer, consultant, and his bio goes on and on. Words that tell us about his dynamic personality and the fact that he's a highly sought-after resource for business and professional associations, and small business owners as well as large corporations have sought out his experience. So he's an author of many published articles and 3 books, and continues to help build and develop talent not only here in the United States, but also in the Caribbean and in other places. He's worked with Fortune 500 companies and smaller organizations to improve their performance, increase their money, and become more dominant in their workplace. Now, I'm really interested in his latest book entitled Leadership Dynamics, 52 Principles Every Successful Leadership Must Embrace. So I know you're ready and listening, so sit back and meet Velton. How are you? Okay, well, it's great. It is great to talk to you. So, listen, I'd love to start out with telling our audience a little bit more about you.
I spent almost 30 years in the hospitality industry in various positions, working for most of the larger hotel chains, Hyatt Hotels, Marriott Hotels, Starwood Hotels, and actually Intercontinental Hotels. So I had the opportunity to get a lot of experience from a lot of different corporations in the same industry, but with different philosophies and different ways of doing business. So I was very fortunate to learn from a lot of incredibly talented people and to take a little bit of the best from all.
Mm-hmm. So you were in this corporate world, and what are some of the things that you learned while you were in the corporate world, working for others?
Well, there's a couple of things. Number one is our greatest asset in any business is the people element. No matter what we're doing, whether it's high tech, whether it's we're selling a tangible product. One of the things that we used to joke about in the hospitality industry is we didn't sell the steak, we sold the sizzle.
Okay.
Because we sold an experience. And when people go to a hotel, they leave with only 2 of 3 things. They live with a receipt. That's the only constant. The other 2 things are a good feeling or a bad feeling. If it's a good feeling, then they don't mind, because who else do we spend our money on but ourselves? If they leave with a bad experience, then they're wondering why they got held up, stuck up, or robbed based on how much money they spent to have this negative experience. So we have to understand in business that, number one, it's the people element that drives our revenue forward, whether it's in sales, customer service, or just doing what's necessary to make sure that our business is successful in their role as part of our company.
So it's the customers that matter, the people.
It's the customers, but as the leader in the organization, we have 2 customers. We have the customer that's going to purchase, but we have the customer who's doing the tasks and the work for us every day. Because if we don't start to treat our employees or our subordinates like we do our customers, in this day and age, they're going to find somewhere else to be employed, especially if they have high levels of expertise and technical knowledge. It's a very competitive market.
So that's interesting. So the staff, employees who work with us, treat them the same as the customers who come into our stores, buy our products. How do you do that?
Well, number one, I'm an avid reader, and I read a lot of books. I read a book called From Good to Great by Jim Collins. And one of the things that he talks about is get the right people on the bus, get the wrong people off the bus. So when you're talking about building your corporation, building your company, number one, you have to bring in the right people who have the right attitude, the right mindset, and the right technical skills. One of the things I've always, is one of my philosophies, I can teach skills. I can't teach attitude. The first thing I want to do is hire the right people with the right attitude. Attitude is everything. Because, as one of my favorite poems says, life is 10% what happens to you, but 90% how you respond and react to it. So if you have people on your team that have the right attitude, you can overcome any issue or obstacle within reason. So we want to make sure that we bring the right people in. Once we get them in place, then the magic happens if we create the environment that encourages people to be successful. We want to make sure that we give them the opportunity to excel. One of my the chapters in my book talks about have a vision, not a task list.
Have a vision, not a what?
A task list.
A task list, like a things to do list.
A things to do list for everybody in the organization. You're the leader.
Okay.
So if you give them the vision, allow them to create the task list. Don't you create the task list for them. You created the vision. You told them where you want to go. You told them what your expectations are. But you hire brilliant people not to tell them what to do, but for them to tell you how to get it done. So give them the ability to shine for you, to tell you if this is your vision, if this is what you expect to do, here's the best way to get it done from my area of expertise, because you've hired them in specific areas. And you've hired if you're hiring the right people, you're hiring people that support your areas of opportunity. What do I mean by that? I don't like to use the word weakness. I don't like to use the word imperfections. Your areas of opportunity are areas that you need to shore up because it's not in your area of expertise. That's not what you do. So you hire an expert in that area to advise you on how to get things done. So you create the vision for them. You tell them, here's where I'd like to end up. Here's what I'm expecting the company to do and the direction I'd like the company to go. What I need you to do is tell me how we fulfill my expectations. How do we make this vision, this dream become a reality within your area of expertise and your collaboration with the other people on the team?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, Velton, obviously, with your years in the corporate side of things and particularly in the hospitality industry, you've learned a lot of good business techniques and had a lot of great experience. Why'd you switch to what you're doing now? What led you there?
Well, a couple of things led me to where I am now. Number one, I've always had a thirst to help guide, teach, and train. One of the reasons that I started as a management trainee and then a salesperson. I was actually a sales manager handling customers and accounts and doing very well and being very successful. But my real passion was helping other people who were doing what I was doing to be better at what they were doing. What do I mean by that? Assuming a director or a leadership role, which is managing a team, coaching a team. You know, since a very young age, I've always been involved in sports, and I used to coach younger kids in my neighborhood as a kid, and really enjoyed being a football coach. Played football all through high school until I got to college, and then even later, when my son was born and he started playing soccer, I became a soccer coach.
Uh-huh.
And I coached soccer for 12 years. And not only being a director of sales and marketing, but being a coach in sports, I understood the dynamics of developing a team, developing individuals based on their different strengths and their different areas of opportunity, but getting them to work together as a cohesive unit. So doing that as a director of sales and marketing, I was doing it for somebody else. And then I became one of the corporate trainers after I wrote a workshop called Prospecting: The Key to Your Future Success, which was a book, was actually a workshop to help salespeople become better at prospecting and finding new business. Once I wrote the workshop and I presented it, the leadership of the company said, "Hey, we want you to do this workshop across the country."
Ah, okay.
So I started doing the workshop as an employee, and the next thing I knew, they said, "Well, we don't want you just to do that workshop. We want you. We have just purchased a series called Customer-Centered Selling Skills, and we want you to be one of the corporate trainers that we train the trainer to deliver this around the country."
Ah, I see.
I became one of the corporate trainers. Well, life has a way of making you ready when you're not ready. And fast forward to 2008, the bottom fell out of the market.
Yes.
And I was working for a very prestigious hotel company, and I got one of those conversations that not many people like. They said, "We have to go in a different direction. That direction doesn't include you."
So that kind of changed up your plans right there, huh?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It made me go in a totally different direction myself.
Yeah. And a direction you weren't expecting, right?
No, I wasn't expecting it. And it's interesting. I'm a religious person, and I believe in God. God was preparing me when I didn't even realize he was preparing me. Because I told you I wrote a workshop. I wrote that workshop in 1996. And I was asked to write it when I really did. It wasn't part of my job. I had a vice president call me and said, I got off the phone with someone and they told me that the salespeople in the Southeast don't know how to prospect. I need you to go down there and teach a course. And I asked him, I said, do you have a course objective and information and curriculum you want me to teach from? And the senior vice president of sales and marketing said, nope, but you'll think of something.
Yes.
My other lines ring in, I got to go.
And so you developed all of that. Is that also what led you to your book, Leadership Dynamics?
It's one of the principles of leadership dynamics, because sometimes things are going to happen to you that you're not expecting. And sometimes in this day and age, you're going to be asked to do things that are not in your job description. But it's all in how you process this information. To go into this just a little bit deeper, a lot of times we're asked to do things before we're in a leadership role or before we're in a CEO or corporate executive role that is not in our job description.
Yes.
And we have a choice. We can either do enough to get by. We can tell our boss that we really can't handle it because we got too much else going on. Or we can just not do it at all. The last part of it is we can put everything we have into it to make sure that we excel. This workshop that I wrote was done so that I could excel because I love to teach and train. Fast forward to 2008 when I had this conversation of going in a different direction, that direction doesn't include you. That became my first product. And it became the title to my first book.
And what was that title to the first book?
Prospecting, the Key to Your Future Success was my first book, which I wrote and published in 2010.
So, Velton, tell us, help our listeners understand, what was the lesson in all that? What did you learn from this, being thrust into this new area unexpectedly, yet you kind of grabbed it and took it, and here you have a new product, a new course. What's the lesson that you can share with our listeners?
You're the master of your fate. You're the captain of your soul.
Okay.
Your mindset is what's important to your success. There are two directions that you can take. You can take the direction of, I have a mission, I have a challenge that I have to accept. And either I accept it or I run from it. If I accept it, I have to go at it all guns blazing with everything I got, my mind, body, and soul. Or I can run from it and let someone else determine my destiny based on my unwillingness to take control myself. But if you take control and you really focus on it, a lot of times when these things happen, we've had so much training working for someone else or doing something else that we have the skill set and the knowledge that can bring us the resources and revenue that we need. In the new millennium, there's more money in what we know than what we do.
What does that mean?
Not understand. I'm sorry?
What does that mean when you say that there's more money in what we know than what we do? Just help me with that.
Knowledge is the new currency.
Oh, okay.
People will pay for your knowledge
Okay.
more than they will pay for your task.
Okay.
Especially if you've been in business for any amount of time. What I'm selling in the marketplace, in a lot of respects, what my book is developed and designed is based on experiences and knowledge that I've been able to gain and ascertain over the years.
Yes.
So there are people that are now that are coming up
yes.
into their own who I am giving them shortcuts on how to develop themselves, how to learn, and how to understand based on the experiences that I had to go through.
Yes. Okay.
So if they're willing to listen, read, and understand, it will make their journey a little shorter, a little cleaner, a little less painful in some areas. Why? Because they've got the knowledge and the experience that I'm sharing with them.
I see. So if you're just joining us on Ignite to Impact, we're having a conversation with Velton Showell, who's a business transformation and organizational leadership expert as well as an author. And I want to find out a little bit more about leadership dynamics, which is one of his several books. But before then, Velton, I want to get back to your motto, transform your thinking, transform your world. Could you help our listening audience understand what's that about? What do you mean when you say that? Transform your thinking, and then you can transform your world. What's that mean?
Most of our thought process are created by our environment. And depending on the environment that we come from, sometimes we're not as open to different ideas, different techniques, different philosophies, different ways of doing things, because it's foreign to us. So it takes a transformation to be able to do that. And I'll give you, for instance, one of the things that a lot of people are very adverse to is change. Well, part of transformation is being willing to change. You have to be willing to accept change to be able to transform. And that's a transformation of your thinking. Communication. One of the chapters in my book that you alluded to, and one of the parts of transformation is communication. When you think you've communicated enough, communicate some more. Because what leads us down the wrong path many times is the lack of communication or misinterpretation of the communication that's being levied on the individuals on your team or in the environment in which you exist. Cooperation is another part of transformation. You have to be willing to be cooperative, even if it doesn't fit exactly what you're looking for. Find a way to be a part of the team. Find a way to get yourself in a cooperative mode. Find a way to be looked upon as an insider versus an outsider. You can make more things happen from the inside than you can from the outside looking in.
Okay.
So when you talk about transformation, these are a lot of the, and I'll use this word again, areas of opportunity that we as individuals, we as human beings have issues with, because we, in a lot of respects, are very independently built. We're built for independence. We want to do things. We want to be superstars, but we have our own ways of doing things. And so when you really start looking at group dynamics, and you really start looking at going from an individual to a team. Phil Jackson had one of my favorite quotes when he was talking about the Chicago Bulls. And he said this. He said, "Good teams become great when the players trust each other enough to replace me with we."
To replace me with we.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
So when you're talking about transformation, now you're thinking differently, because you're not thinking so much about what's important to me, what's better for me, what do I want. You're looking at it from the perspective of, as a team, if I make this decision, what impact does it have on us? How do we Do we win? Do we lose? Do we sit in limbo because of the decisions that we're making that are not impactful for everybody on the team? Mm-hmm. So as a leader, you have to transform your thought process from what's best from an individual perspective to what's best in the environment that I'm creating.
Right, for the team. And Velton, through your experience, do you know, do people ask you, do you also train on, well, how do you do that? I mean, it's one thing to say, okay, change your way of thinking, transform that, work with other people, change your mindset. How do you do that? What advice do you give to people to get ready? Almost like that pre-step to get ready to step into this new behavior.
It's a process. It really is, because, as you said, you're talking about changing things that have that sometimes have been inherent in us for many, many years. Mm-hmm. So it's a process. That's why leadership dynamics, the way it's being written, the 52 principles mm-hmm. are designed for you to focus on one principle for a week.
Oh, okay. So that's why it's 52. Your book is Leadership Dynamics, but the subtitle is 52 Principles Every Successful Leader Must Embrace. So exactly. That's a principle a week. Mm-hmm. Oh, so fantastic. Okay.
If you focus on this principle for 7 days, mm-hmm. 7 straight days, this is your focus. This is, these are the things that I want to bring to bear in my decision-making processes, in my leadership processes, in my communication. I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to keep this in the forefront of my mind for 7 days. Mm-hmm. So now it's not foreign to my way of looking at things. It's not foreign to my demeanor. It's not foreign to my philosophy. It's now becoming built into the way I think.
I see. Okay.
So as you go through this for a whole year, now we have the ability to make a change. It's like an ocean liner out in the middle of the ocean. You can't flip it all at one time. Mm-hmm. Okay. You got to change. Okay. You got to turn it a little bit at a time. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And all of these principles build on each other.
That's, I love that analogy, because so often people think that transformation all you have to do is say, okay, I'm going to change, or what have you. But what you're saying, it is a process. And the analogy that you gave it reminds me of that movie, I think it's Speed 2, where they're in this huge mammoth ocean liner, and it's on a direct collision course for this other tanker, and they can't just turn the wheel and turn this huge ship around. It really takes a process, and it not only takes a process, but it takes time. And they also had to use a lot of other people to help them, figure out how to turn it. And that's what popped in my mind when you said, well, this is a process, and I'm telling people, kind of get used to a principle a week kind of thing. I think it's important for people to hear.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's just like you're building a team, and you're creating an environment, but you're also working on yourself.
Yes.
So as you're working on yourself, the people around you start to feel the change in you. Because they feel, instead of you, again, create a vision, not a task list. One of the first things that we talk about. One of the other things we talk about is know your strengths. but also know your areas of opportunity, which I substitute for weaknesses. Why? Because you want to know what you're good at so that you can step to the plate and help the team. But you also want to know where your areas of opportunity are so that you can pull back and let those people that are strong in those areas excel. Nobody wakes up in the morning not wanting to fail. Everybody wakes up in the morning want to do their best.
Right.
But it's the environment that they go to that determines how they respond and react for the rest of the day. So if you're creating that environment, you're on the right track.
So, Velton, I wanted to ask you, and I know our time is winding down, or that always happens when, we get just such interesting insights. You just I want to go on, and but I want to ask you this question about visioning, because I think you even mentioned it in your book or how have you. How does visioning fit into transform your thinking?
Well, every organization has a vision statement, or they should have a vision statement. So once you create a vision statement, it really is the billboard for how your organization is supposed to operate. This is our vision. This is who we are. This is how we think. From your vision becomes your mission statement. And your mission statement then drives the principles of your organization. One of the books that I wrote is called Strategic Planning, Planning to Win.
Yes.
And the workshop is called From Startup to Blow Up. And it takes you through the processes of developing a strategic plan which has the influence on your environment of your organization. Because everybody plays a role in the development of the plan, the development of the process, and the creation of the direction and the environment that the company's going. So it's inclusion. And once you get people included, and you almost set them up as the CEO of their own little area, then you watch the magic.
Yes. Well, Velton, this has been informative, and I've been particularly interested in your transform your thinking, transform your world point of view. And I know for any of our listeners who want to, really dive deep, it just seems that leadership dynamics, 52 principles every successful leader must embrace is something you want to run out and get so that you can really, dive deeper. Because it seems like, Velton, you really have this systemic way of approaching this whole subject of transformation and change, and it's a biggie.
Oh well, it's a life of love for me, because, as I said, I love helping people. I love watching people blossom and just grow and just blow up.
Yes,
because it's one of those things where I'm all about serving people. And as I said, I do have a religious philosophy, and I do believe that service is the rent we pay to God for the privilege of walking His earth. So I'm always available to serve people. When I go and speak, I speak to people from a perspective of bringing them into the environment and into the story, and having a conversation very similar to the conversation we're having now. Even though there may be 200, 300, 400, 1,000 people in the audience, I want them to understand and feel that what I'm telling them is not just something that I wrote today for this speech. What I'm telling them is based on years of experience and working with people and watching people blossom and grow and being built and molded myself based on the environments that I've been privileged enough to be a part of.
Yes. So, Velton, how can people get in touch with you?
Well, I'm easy to find. My website is www.veltonshowell.com. They can also email me at info@veltonshowell.com. I'm on Facebook. The name of my company and my fan page is Strategic Solutions LLC. I'm on LinkedIn at Velton Showell. And all of the other social media avenues, Velton Showell, just Google me and you'll see who I am and what I'm about. And please, reach out. I'd love to have a conversation with you. I'd love to help you, work with you, and love to speak to your organizations if the opportunity presents itself.
Well, thank you so much, Velton Showell. We have learned some good stuff, gotten some insights about mind and thinking and how you can transform and how you can deal with change, how to be, cooperative, and also that while you as a leader are working with others, it's so important to work with yourself as well. That self-development really makes a difference. So, Velton, we appreciate you and we'll have you back. And thank you so much for being on Ignite to Impact.
My pleasure. I appreciate your time. And Dr. Geneva, you have an incredible show. And if I can ever be of help and service, please let me know. I'd love to come back.
Oh, thank you. Well, we're going to have you back. That's a bet. Thank you.
You've been listening to Ignite to Impact with your host, Dr. Geneva Williams, an award-winning executive, facilitator, and master leadership strategist. Dr. Geneva is passionate about inspiring others to get their own leadership on and empowering the next generation with leadership tools and tips to help make the world a better place. Sign up to download Dr. Geneva's audiobook on leadership. Get the show notes, links, and other resources at drgenevaspeaks.com. That's drgenevaspeaks.com. Thanks for listening. Please share this podcast to those in your community via Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or Google+, and leave us a 5-star review in iTunes. When you do that, it helps others find the show better. Send your questions or comments to info@drgenevaspeaks.com and use the hashtag Ignite2Impact.